In recent years, Congress starting an official U.S. government Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, recently renamed the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO. And now in a News Nation exclusive, David Grusch, an Air Force veteran, former member of that task force, and veteran of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, is formally blowing the whistle on secrets he says no one has ever shared publicly before.
You are one of the most trusted former intelligence officials in the U.S. defense and intelligence establishment.
Yes, I was.
You were trusted with the most intimate secrets.
Yes.
Grusch sitting down with award-winning investigative journalist Ross Coulthart, who's reporting for News Nation and has spent years reporting on the UFO question.
What conclusion did you come to at the end of your time on the UAP task force?
The UAP task force was refused access to a broad crash retrieval program.
When you say crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will, non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
You're kidding.
No. I thought it was totally nuts, and I thought at first I was being deceived. It was a ruse. People started confiding in me. They approached me. I have plenty of current and former senior intelligence officers that came to me, many of which I knew almost my whole career, that confided in me they were a part of a program. They named the program. I've never heard of it. And they told me, based on their oral testimony, and they provided me documents and other proof, that there was, in fact, a program that the UAP task force was not read into.
Grusch alleges the U.S. government has recovered non-human craft for decades. He's filed a whistleblower complaint saying he gave what he calls the classified proof to Congress and the Intelligence Community Inspector General. News Nation has confirmed David Grusch's credentials and resume. We've not seen or verified the alleged proof he says he's provided to investigators. He says he can't show us the proof for national security reasons. He also tells us he's not seen photos of the alleged craft himself, but has talked extensively with other intelligence officials who have.
If you're right, if you're telling us the truth, everyone, the entire public, has been lied to for decades.
Yeah, there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral.
You are saying to the human race, for the first time, an official intelligence representative at a high level from the US government is saying publicly, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely, the data points empirically that we're not alone, yeah.
Do we have bodies? Do we have species of
Well,
non-human?
naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
He has the credentials, but there's no documents that he's handed over. There's no pictures. And as a journalist, you want to see documents, you want to see pictures. Does that raise a red flag?
All of that information is classified. As we said in the story, everything that Grusch told Congress and told the Inspector General of both the IC, the Intelligence Community Inspector General, and the Department of Defense Inspector General, all of that information is classified.
In 2017, Kane reported exclusively in the New York Times that the Pentagon had a secret UFO program. 3 years later, the Pentagon confirmed her story. Her latest report is even more explosive, but Kane says she has multiple sources who back up Grusch's story.
I believe it because of all the sources I have who have told me the same thing. So who am I to doubt these very, very high-level people who have been inside these programs for decades, have done their work, and are all telling me the same thing? I mean, I don't think there's some kind of conspiracy among all these people who don't know each other to make something like this up.
So I've got to be blunt about this. Yeah. You're not making this up. This is not a lie.
No, absolutely not.
Because everybody watching this right now is looking at your face. They're going, is this guy for real?
I am for real. And I'm sitting here at great personal risk and obvious professional risk by talking to you today.
And just within the last 10 minutes or so, the Pentagon has released a statement to News Nation about this report. They say to date, AARO has not discovered any verifiable information to substantiate claims that any programs regarding the possession or reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials have existed in the past or exist currently. AARO is committed to following the data and its investigation wherever it leads. AARO, working with the Office of the General Counsel and the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, has established a safe and secure process for individuals to come forward with information to aid AARO in its congressionally mandated historical review. AARO's historical review of records and testimonies is ongoing and due to Congress by June 2024, and AARO welcomes the opportunity to speak with any former or current employee or contractor who believes they have information relevant to this historical review. And Elizabeth, we know that David Grusch, he's filed that whistleblower complaint. He's been on the record under oath testifying to many of these things that he said in our report tonight.
Right, and it's important to point out that this statement from the Pentagon, from AARO, Grusch is alleging that this top secret program is keeping it a secret from AARO. So.
Yeah, exactly. And if Grusch is, what he's saying is true, you know, the spokespeople, all of those folks at that level wouldn't even know this was going on anyway.
All right, I got to ask you, you know, he has a compelling story to tell. Very little of it seems like firsthand knowledge. Isn't he just repeating what somebody else has told him or somebody else has showed him?
Yes, that is what he's doing, but he says he's talked to a number of people who are in very, very high-level positions. He also had basically the highest level of classified material information that he was able to receive. We went back and checked over, you know, his history, all of his credentials. Check out completely. Unfortunately, there's
in addition, a couple people have come forward publicly to vouch for him, people who are high-ranking.
They have, and this article first came out this morning, and I think it's interesting that, you know, there hasn't been any sort of effort to discredit what he has said either from the Defense Department. And think about it, Elizabeth, if you go back 15 or 20 years, if we were sitting here talking about UFOs, people would think that we were nutty. Now it's gotten to the level of where it is somewhat accepted because the government has come forward to a certain extent and acknowledged that there are these videos that exist. The Navy has released the videos themselves and said, we're not sure exactly what this is that we're seeing.
This gentleman, David Grusch. And David Grusch, let's find out who he is and what his credentials were. But he essentially said that they are illegally hiding it from Congress, and they are illegally hiding it from the people. But they have off-world craft in possession.
Who's the they in that?
It's somewhere. Well, it's in the things they're saying is. Oh, here, let's read it. Air Force veteran has made a bombshell claim that U.S. government has recovered materials that could be proof of UFOs, including an intact craft of non-human origin, but they are keeping it a secret from the public. David Charles Grusch, a veteran and former member of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency and National Reconnaissance Office, has blown the whistle on this information, speaking with several news outlets about the crafts. These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles. Call it a spacecraft if you will. Non-human exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed, Mr. Grusch told News Nation. Mr. Grusch served as senior technical advisor for the unidentified aerial phenomenon analysis with top secret compartmented information clearance, according to the debrief. He also served as a senior intelligence officer in the National Reconnaissance Office. In total, he has 14 years of experience serving as an intelligence officer. So here's the question. Is that a PSYOP? Is this, we've got a non-human craft, a PSYOP? Like if I was the government and I was working on some shit and I didn't want China or Russia to know about it and we could do some wild shit, some anti-gravity shit. I thought it was totally nuts and I thought at first I was being deceived. But it was a ruse, Mr. Grusch told News Nation. People started to confide in me, approach me. I have plenty of senior former intelligence officers that came to me, many of which I knew almost my whole career, that confided in me that they were part of a program. He told the debrief that he's prepared many briefs on UFOs for Congress, but last year decided to provide hours of classified information and data about the Materials Recovery Program. Mr. Grusch claims the Materials Recovery Program was shielded from proper congressional oversight. So this is what Bob Lazar has been saying forever. This guy's saying that it was going on for 80 years. So, like, this brings us back to the 1940s. I mean, this means like Roswell. This is what they were talking about when all the people that were at Roswell, that were at the actual crash site and the actual claim they saw bodies. And then there was 2 different aircrafts that were flown in to Roswell, New Mexico, and took the wreckage and flew it in 2 different aircrafts in case one of them crashed, supposedly. And they flew him to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. This has all been documented. And he's the guy he's ended his career to come out and talk about this stuff because he's like, this is nuts. Like, this is, and if you're a real patriot, that's probably the thing you should do. And apparently, according to Sagar, he was talking about breaking points. The New York Times rejected this. The Washington Post rejected this. They didn't want to talk about it. This is the gentleman. So let's play this.
Do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles. Call it spacecraft if you will. It's probably not the right parlance, but no kidding, non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
That's it. Where's the whole interview?
Probably that website.
See if you can find. Is that something you have to sign up for? What is it? What is it?
News Nation.
News Nation. Meanwhile, that might be a 100% government-controlled organization that just promotes propaganda. And that guy's working for them. You got to think about all these things.
I know.
What conclusion did you come to at the end of your time on the UAP task force?
The UAP task force was refused access to a broad crash retrieval program.
When you say crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will, non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
You're kidding.
No. I thought it was totally nuts, and I thought at first I was being deceived. It was a ruse. People started confiding in me. They approached me. I have plenty of current and former senior intelligence officers that came to me, many of which I knew almost my whole career, that confided in me they were a part of a program. They named the program. I've never heard of it. And they told me, based on their oral testimony, and they provided me documents and other proof, that there was, in fact, a program that the UAP task force was not read into.
Grusch alleges the U.S. government...
Does it keep going? What else does it say?
The entire American public has been lied to for decades.
Yeah, there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral.
You are saying to the human race, for the first time, an official intelligence representative at a high level from the US government is saying publicly, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely, the data points empirically that we're not alone, yeah.
Do we have bodies? Do we have species of
Well,
non-human?
naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
It's also harder for people to wrap their minds around the concept.
I don't know, man.
He might be full of shit.
Well,
He might be.
I'm fascinated.
Agent. He might be a government agent.
Well, to unpack that a little bit, so there are, I can only speak to it from a military perspective. So he was in the Air Force. There are programs, they're covered programs, or there are programs that you're not going to get read into. And just because you're read into one program doesn't mean you're going to get read into other ones. So his clearance, TSSCI, is not an uncommon one. It's the same clearance that I held that I was in. Having a clearance, there's two things, right? You have to have the clearance and then you have to have the need to know. So you could view him saying we were not read into another program as something that would be conspiratorial, or you could view it as like one program didn't necessarily have something to do with the other one, so there's no need to actually read them in. I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm fascinated to understand. It sounds like what he is saying is that the United States military is nesting that program, the program to go recover, and I would be fascinated to know how they are doing that invisibly. I mean, we're talking aircraft. We're talking identification early on, aircraft moving teams, and this. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of shit.
Right.
I'm not saying it's impossible.
But there are people that are coming forward, so it's not like they're totally being quiet, which is sort of
they're coming
line
forward with
human
a piece.
nature.
They're coming forward with a piece of a pie. I'd be fascinated how all the pieces of the pie fed together. I'm not saying what he's saying isn't true, but watching that actually, for me, with my limited understanding of some of the stuff he was talking about, I have more questions that I would want to ask him.
Yeah, I would want to ask him too. We got to get him. Got to get him on here.
I bet he would come on here.
I'm just gonna go on fucking.
I feel like
whatever
though
the hell it is.
I feel
News
like
Nation.
He went on a tour. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Oh, why didn't he contact us?
I think you might get more circular answers.
Maybe he did.
Probably asked too many fucking questions.
You might get more.
Ooh, maybe I asked too many questions. Maybe the word I get him
You
high.
ask good questions though. Is he still in? I might not even matter. I don't even know if they probably allow weed in the current military. You might get more circular answers than specific ones. If you look at the answers that he was giving. And again, I'm not trying to discount what he's saying. And I personally, like I have said many times, I think it's improbable that we're alone. He was speaking in generalities and not specifics. He was talking about other people's experiences, less his own.
Yes, that's a good point. And that's what my question would be. What have you seen?
Yeah.
What have you seen physically with your own eyes?
Yeah.
What have you touched? What do you know for a fact?
And again, I'm not saying he hasn't had those experiences, but I would ask those same questions as well. And it's just from my understanding of how the military will compartmentalize, as all organizations who actually want to keep information or at least delay the release of information. Compartmentalization is not a novel concept.
Well, that's what Bob Lazar said was the problem with the back engineering program. He said that science can't exist like that in a vacuum, and the propulsion experts were not allowed to talk to the metallurgists. The metallurgy experts were not allowed to talk to the biology experts. He said if they really did have physical bodies, the people that were working on the propulsion system had no knowledge of that, weren't allowed to talk about it. But there was all chatter. Everyone would talk about things. And apparently there was some sort of a debriefing they gave them, and in that debriefing he said it was so nuts. He said, first of all, they said they've been coming here forever, and they also said that we're a product of accelerated evolution, which is wild as fuck.
Yeah.
That human beings in general, why we are so different from all the other primates. I mean, that's always been the fucking conspiracy theory folklore. That's the fun one, is that they came down. That's the Anunnaki that came down here and messed around with lower primate DNA and did something to it to create a human being.
I'm here for it.
I'm here for that.
Yeah.
That would make everything fun. And then I would think that the government would want stuff like this to come out if they were in the middle of like stealing money or doing something really wild.
Oh, the classic misdirection?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, if you're going to take something that gets rid of a certain amendment, or you're going to do something that allows you to infringe on rights or to impose some new sort of restrictions. And
bring the aliens out.
Yeah, bring the aliens out.